When you think about life in civilization and especially in modern society, you might realize that most of the things we deal with are basically made up. If you think about money, if you think about success, even if you think about time itself, these are things that people created at a certain point to
Mm-hmm.
help us navigate this life and bring things in order. And so all of these different things, they kind of make our lives easier. But I feel like we're at a point where all of these different things, they're kind of becoming more of a restriction in our lives. That we hear how people define success and what you should do in your life and what relationships are meant to be. And we have this stress over time that we need to be
Mm-hmm.
somewhere at a certain moment. And all of these things bring anxieties, depression in
Mm-hmm.
so many people. And what I want to argue here is that you can change your perception on all of these different things that are man-made,
Mm-hmm.
and create different things in your life in order to have more freedom, in order to have more positive mindset on
Mm-hmm.
everything.
I think that we technically like just live in a systematic society,
Mm.
right? Like you've got everything that's kind of organized or systematically
Yeah, exactly.
worked out for you. You know, you've got time, like you said, you've got money, and this costs this much money, and this costs this much time, and this is going to be like this, and this is going to be like this.
Mhm.
And then you add to that the aspect that we live in a society where it's the norm that everyone is going to pretend that they're intelligent, and everyone's going to tell you their opinion and how to do things and what to do. Like even us right now, we're kind of not doing anything different
It's
than
all the
that.
same.
So you've got so many opinions, you've got so many, I don't know, theories about life and about
Mhm.
this and that. That's kind of affecting our perspective on
Yeah.
how to accept all of this. It's, I think it has gotten to the point where we are kind of ending up losing ourselves and losing our own perspectives in all of these noises,
Mhm.
you know? And we sometimes end up forgetting that, like you said, it's more about our perspective and how we define these things than how everyone calls it, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like these things started as ways to make our lives better, to make our life
Mm-hmm.
easier, but they really become things that hold us back from living our life. I mean, just look, when we're children, we don't think
Mm-hmm.
about these things. We don't think about time. We don't think about money and
Mm-hmm.
success. And we're just free to do whatever we want. But as we grow up, we start to hear all of these terms
Mm-hmm.
from our parents and the society we live in. And we start to restrict ourselves in different ways. And we focus on certain thing that we think that we want,
Mm-hmm.
and we forget everything that we used to do when we were more innocent, I guess.
I've heard this not long ago that kids are not meant to, you know, be systematic and be organized. Kids are not made to wake up at 7 in the morning or
Mhm.
6 in the morning to
Yeah.
get ready to go to school at 8 in the morning, so they can get like, you know, hold up with I don't know how many other kids in the same classroom and this and this. And it is kind of true. Like when you think about what a child actually is, a child is nothing but chaos,
Hmm.
but not negative chaos. It's like the fun, creative kind of
It's just
chaos that when
openness.
you're watching it, you kind of enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
But a kid has to be chaotic. A kid has to go through a lot of things to, you know, explore life. And I believe that this applies to us as well as adults. Because sometimes we get too stuck and like too narrow minded on everything in our life and society and everything that society told us, you know, all the bullshit that we hear from
Mhm.
everywhere, that we forget that life is chaotic
Mhm.
and that sometimes we also have to be chaotic so
Yeah,
we can have a little bit of fun.
order is just like everything else, something we created. It's not something that's
Exactly, exactly.
from life.
And like I'm just gonna take it here from another example. Like discipline is something that is also human made.
Hmm.
You know, we are the ones that came up with discipline and what discipline actually means.
Hmm.
Some people focus too much on discipline, like they discipline themselves, which is a good point. You know, like everybody should have a little bit of discipline at least. But they focus too much on the discipline that they forget that there's life outside of that discipline, and then they start defining themselves and their lives and everything around them by the discipline they've got. And I've mentioned this, I guess, in the last episode that sometimes, or most of the times, you want to leave a little bit of room for wonder in your life,
Sure.
for mystery, for something, you know,
Surprise.
exactly, like something that's going to surprise you,
Hmm.
something that, will be fun, something that even could be sad or bad or hurtful, whatever, like just a little bit of mystery in your life. And I'm taking discipline as an example because it's such a hugely talked about topic nowadays. We focus sometimes too much on discipline, and we define ourselves and our lives by that discipline,
Yeah.
that we leave zero room for mystery and for us to explore things in life.
Yeah, like discipline is just another way that how we restrict ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
I suffered this in my life because I try to be extra productive sometimes. I mean, I work a part-time job, and at home I work on my videos, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually just stuck in this routine where I'm going to work, going
Mm-hmm.
back home to work again, and it's really hard to get out of this discipline mindset
Mm-hmm.
and to do things more spontaneously, to enjoy life. And in these rare moments where I decide to have these rooms where I can do something
Mm-hmm.
spontaneous, I feel so much better afterwards. But it's just really hard to get yourself out of this mindset in a
I
sense.
think, like, I'm just gonna get off the main topic here and focus a little bit on
Mm.
discipline, just like to bring something into perspective as well. Is that sometimes we also define, like, for example, discipline is defined for a lot of people as hard work, and for a lot of people, hard work is defined as, you know, hard, painful, grunt
Sure.
work that requires a lot of energy and effort. But even the hard grunt work can also be fun, you know. So I think, like, in society nowadays, we separate a lot of terms.
Mm.
You know, we separate hard work from fun. We separate grunt work from, or the grind from this and this. And it's like you either have this mentality or you have this mentality, and we
Yeah,
forget
very
that
true.
life, and us as humans especially, nothing is set in stones,
Mhm.
and it's always adapting.
But this
And
is the point. This is what I wanted to talk about. That all of these terms, all of these rules,
mhm.
they are man-made. You
Yeah,
don't have to
definitely,
restrict
definitely.
yourself to all of these different things because you have so much room to reshape
Hmm.
whatever thing that you heard in order to fit more in the life you're trying to bring, in the life
Hmm.
you're trying to live.
Definitely. It's just that sometimes, like we're gonna go back to the same point here, that we have so many opinions and so many factors here, that our perception is always changing, and as human beings, we're easily influenced by, well, everything that we
Mhm.
hear. I think that the main problem nowadays is that we're all trying to find a way to live,
Mhm.
or trying to define what life is,
Sure.
and maybe what's the meaning of life. You know, we're trying to understand it, and we're trying to understand
It's one
ourselves.
of
And
our core needs, I would say.
exactly, it not really, it's one of our core needs, but for some reason, I think when there's a lot of different opinions and a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different, facts and stuff going on, you kind of get lost, and then you try to find something that would fit you or would fit what you want out of life or something like this.
Sure.
Like, if you look in the past, I don't think people looked for meaning or try to understand life as much as we do nowadays, because I think they had like a less opinions and less ways to
Sure.
define life. But nowadays, since we have too many, everyone is trying to understand which one fits them, what works for
Mhm.
them, what doesn't, and they're switching from, I don't know, example number one of living, example two of way of living, and so on and so on and so on. And I'm going to use here the words of Alan Watts, that life was never meant to be understood.
Mhm.
That maybe life was never meant to be understood. When you look at what he, now that's up to the listener how they want to take it. But for me, when I heard those words, that life was never meant to be understood, that strike me on a huge level, because my whole life I've been trying to understand life. And then when I realized that, okay, wait, actually, maybe life was actually never meant to be understood.
Mhm.
Life is too chaotic. Life is too random. We are too dynamic to be understood. We're always adapting, and this and that.
It's not only that life isn't meant to be understood, life isn't meant to be structured. And meaning is just like all of
Hmm.
these different things is a way to structure life. Like you're meant to live in order to go to heaven, in order to go to hell, that
Hmm.
your soul is going to go. We're always trying to find answers to things and to make order to that, that that every effect that every cause has an effect. And maybe this isn't necessarily true in life itself. It's just when I meant need, it's just that because we're really curious people and we're always looking for answers. So meaning is
Mm-hmm.
one of that. And we grow up having different meanings being fed to us from our parents and our society. And just like the idea of money and the idea of time, success, and all of these different things, it is purely subjective and man made. So you can define your own meaning. And if you're like so many other people that you lost the meaning in your life because you don't believe in the meaning that you grow up with, that you were indoctrinated with, you don't have to necessarily be nihilistic and think that
Mm-hmm.
there's no meaning in life. You can create your own meaning and have a more positive mindset in your life. It's just another thing that you can reshape to fit in your life so that you can live in a better way.
I will connect this to one of the words, one of the things that Rumi said.
Who's room?
Rumi is it's I don't know exactly a lot of things about Rumi. I just know a little bit about him. I know that he writes poetry, and in his poetry there's a lot of philosophy in it, and spirituality or religion is connected to him as well. I need to do more research on Rumi. I've read a lot of his quotes. I've heard a little tiny bit about him. To be honest, I don't know exactly who Rumi is, but in one of the things he wrote was, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop."
Mhm.
So there he was referring, of course, to the human beings, because
To
when
our like whole being.
to us,
Yeah.
to humans, because we look at ourselves that we are a drop in an ocean. The ocean is the universe, or the ocean is, I don't know, planet, depends
But you
on
have the universe within you, in a sense.
exactly. And
Yeah.
when he says that you are the ocean in a drop,
Mhm.
that means that every one of us, we've got the whole universe inside of us,
Mhm.
and
Because we are part of it.
it's a drops. It's like we've got multiple drops of the whole universe. And what he was referring to, at least what I believe he was referring to at the time when he said this, was that since you are the universe, you are capable of choosing and deciding on how to live
Mhm.
and your
Exactly.
perspective on life and how to respond to things
Mhm.
and the kind of life that you want to have. You're not an ocean in a drop, so it's not that the universe affects you or tells you or lets or forces you to do something that you want to do,
Nope.
but you're an ocean in a drop, which means that you have the power and the capacity and the capabilities
To shape things.
to
Mhm.
shape things like you want to.
It's the same way when we say that we are our own gods, in a sense. That
Exactly, exactly. So every one of us is the center of the universe.
Mhm.
Why? Because again, like I'm gonna take Rumi's words here because it saves me a lot of explanation. You're an ocean in a drop, so you are the center of your own universe,
Mhm.
and technically, your universe matters the most than other people's universes. Of course, you don't want a universe that's destroying another universe.
Mhm.
Like we all want to live. Hey, don't cut life too short for us.
I guess this is what I wanted to talk
Mm-hmm.
about. That I've mentioned at the beginning of the episode that we created all of these rules and things at some point in order to make our lives easier.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only easier, but more that we can live in harmony with other human
Mm-hmm.
beings. Because if you look in the past, we were savages. We were raiding each other, killing each other, and we needed to create certain things, certain collective beliefs in
Mm-hmm.
order to find a way to live in harmony. You can look at religion, you can look at trading, the idea of money, and all of these
Mm-hmm.
things. They helped us to make our lives better. But we are now at a certain point where these things are becoming too much of a restriction because we created so many different layers of all of these things that make
Mm-hmm.
our life so narrow and going in one way. And I guess what we should do is get rid of all of these layers, but
Mm-hmm.
reshaping them, not getting rid of them completely so that we're back to being savages and
Mm-hmm.
completely chaotic in our lives, but rather find the rules that make sense of us. You can also take it in the morality sense
Mm-hmm.
that we all should have morals, but nobody should tell you what your morals are. You need to figure
Mm-hmm.
what are the right morals in order to live in a way that you can be harmonious with others, not hurting others, and at the same time having enough confidence to live your life and achieve what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like finding the middle ground, just like in many other
But
things, you
but
know.
even like what you're describing right now, for me feels like you're trying to understand life.
Not really understand it, but
But
living it the way you want, but also not harming other people, you know. Not restricting yourself too
So
much, but in a
yeah,
sense,
go on.
not restricting yourself too much, but also not confronting to society, in a
Hmm.
sense.
But
Like,
then, but again, like what you're saying here is literally just us trying to understand life, understand the way that we want to live.
the way we want, not necessarily understand life, but the way, how do you want to live in life?
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, you're living in a world where it's advancing too much. And I think we talked about this before.
Hmm.
That's really hard to get out of this,
Hmm.
completely to get out of society. So if you're someone who is living in the heart of society, you're kind of confronting to different rules and laws,
Hmm.
or you're someone who's a hippie who lives completely
Hmm.
outside,
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So I think for most of us, the solution is somewhere in between,
yeah.
because you want to take these advantages of all of these different rules that we
Hmm.
created to make life easier, but also not confront to what other people want. So where is that middle ground? That's what I mean, that it's not about understanding life, but it's about finding the meaning that you want and figuring out the way how to live your life in the best way you could. It's not about understanding what life is.
Hmm.
It's something different, I guess.
I kind of agree, but my opinion also differs a little tiny bit.
Okay.
So for me, it's like obviously you cannot live without trying to understand life, because then you're just back to being a savage.
Mhm.
So you need to have a little bit of understanding, not toward life, but maybe more toward yourself.
Understanding maybe humanity more than understanding life, because it's about how do you live with other people, in a sense. It's all about you and other people. Because at the
That's a little bit of a tiny different topic, because if you're trying to understand other people, then you're technically living for other people.
not
So
not in
I'm
that way.
I'm 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 the kind of person that says fuck that. I don't want to try to live for other people. I would like to understand myself more and understand, like, when once you try to you want to understand yourself a little bit more,
Mhm.
and you want to have a little bit of understanding for life, and you want to try to kind of figure out a little bit the kind of life that you want to live.
Yeah.
And then once you know that, you can try to implement some of the stuff from society, like these norms or
Mhm.
these things that we've created, into your life that will either make your life easier
Yeah.
or maybe help you go toward where you want to go.
Mhm.
And then from there on, you're going to get stuck, of course, in the loop where you're forcing too many things and you're doing too many things, and then you focus on too many things and you're trying to have more and more
But that's
understanding
when
of
you
things.
start to reshape things again and
Exactly.
again
And
and
then that's
again.
when you start reshaping again, so you can have a little bit more, I'm going to go back to my little bit of room for mystery, or,
It's a room for freedom, in a sense, you know?
and it's going to be a back and forth
Yeah.
thing. But like I said, like for me, the difference is that I wouldn't really focus too much on understanding others or how to live with others, because
I think maybe you misunderstand me
we're
here,
too
because
dynamic. But when you say that understanding others or understanding how to live with other human beings, like for me, that's you kind of, because we're too dynamic. We're as human beings. Like, for example, I know how to live with certain people nowadays in my
Mhm.
life, but in 10 years, I might be a completely different person. I don't know if I'm going to be able to live with them. And then if I'm going to restrict myself so I can always try to understand other people and try to live by what other people are doing or how other people are living, then I'm always putting this bubble around me and around my potential and everything that's related to me, because, well, hey, I gotta fit with these people, I gotta
but
understand them, I don't have to do I shouldn't do this and
but
this.
what I kind of meant is more like, we talked about this before, that you can't live in complete isolation, and
I'm not
even
saying,
if you're not a people person, you need to deal with people, in a sense.
sure, but that doesn't mean that you have to have a deep understanding for people so you can always try to fit in or
No, no,
have your
no. It's
people,
it's, it's
you
not
know
that's not at all what it's not about fitting in, but it's more about, you need to deal with people and you need to be respectful in some way, to not harm others, to not hurt others, to that's it.
but
Because this is where
that's
you cross the line of having your freedom,
okay. So
you know.
I'm completely neglecting or letting go of the extreme cases.
Mm,
I'm talking about, like an average kind of life.
yeah,
The extreme cases, of course, are, well, you trying to kill other people, or
not just
you,
killing,
yeah,
but yeah.
but like this is one of the extreme cases,
But
you know.
this used to be the norm back then,
Yeah,
because we didn't
exactly.
have any kind
So
of morals.
exactly. So I'm not taking these. I'm not taking the extreme cases into account because, well, extreme cases are extreme cases, and
Mm.
they need like
But they're
They're
only
different
extreme
topic.
cases in our society, right?
They are extreme cases in
Yeah.
our, for the average
But
person.
it's because we start to understand ourselves and how people want to live. This is why we start to have more empathy to other people and to.
But even killing another human being, I think that was also an extreme case in the history. Maybe so. The circumstances and life, of course, was a little bit different. So there was more wars, there was more killing, there was more in this and this, or at least based on what we know. So yeah, sure. Nowadays, this is a little bit. It's a little bit of a different topic. We've got laws, we've got morals, we've got this
Yeah.
and this, but like that was part of the journey that we got here. And I'm pretty sure that people in the past also had morals, but they didn't really have as many, or didn't really have much
Didn't
of
have
an
them in
understanding.
depth, I guess.
Exactly.
Basic
So
morals, maybe.
I'm talking about the average person experience.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, extreme cases are extreme cases. The average person experience nowadays, when you talk about understanding other people and trying to fit in, I believe that this is kind of a restriction for yourself.
Sure.
You know,
It depends how you in which angle are you taking this exactly? Like
regardless, once you try to understand other people
Mhm.
and you focus too much on understanding other people, you will end up forgetting more and more things about yourself, and you will be more focused on how to understand people, how to fit in, how not to hurt people, how not to do this and this. And when I say hurt, I'm talking about like hurting them emotionally or mentally,
Yeah, sure.
not physically. But all of these things will happen because you could have interaction between two human beings. All right, I'm just going to bring this as an example here. The first person has been hurt in the past, and their perception or the way they perceive things and look at things is different than the other person who is just, someone who's, an average person, let's say. And the average person is not doing anything that's actually hurtful or saying anything that's actually hurtful. But since the other person, based on their experience, they've been hurt in the past, they will take what this other person is saying in a hurtful way.
Sure.
And they're going to get hurt even though the second person didn't really say or do anything that's objectively that's objectively hurtful, So you cannot always go like, oh, I gotta understand the other person.
No.
Because
this is going more to the extreme. Like
no, I'm taking this in a way that the average experience in life is that people are gonna get hurt by
but
you.
as you said, this is also a way of restricting yourself. Of
Exactly.
Going too much.
So you're gonna hurt people, and people are gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
That's part of life.
Exactly.
But once you try to have more understanding, like that's what I understood from what you were saying. Once you try to understand other people more and more and more, you're always going to try to avoid these scenarios where you're hurting the other person, where there's a potential of hurting the other person because they've, this and this and this and this. And then you're restricting yourself more and more and more and more. So that's why I prefer the way of describing that. Okay, try to understand yourself. Try to understand what you want out of life, how you want to live your life. And from there, implement things, remove things, and see where the waves take you.
I guess another way to look at it, going back to the same thing about dealing with people, if you're someone who is in general used to be an asshole, I think it's a good idea to go to the extreme and try to understand people too much, but then reshaping that in order to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there are cases where it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, definitely.
But this is where the key point comes, that you need to reshape things again and again.
Definitely.
It's the same thing when we talk about
definitely.
Let's talk about this again. Self-help books.
It's the
swing.
The clock that always swings,
Exactly.
like
it's the same.
Like you're gonna swing in this direction, and then you're gonna have to correct your swing in this direction, and then you're always reshaping and adjusting and going back and forth.
But it's
exactly.
the same of this example that we've talked about a lot. When you're someone who's stuck in your life and you start reading self-help books, you might go to the extreme and implement everything. But that's not a bad idea in the beginning. But at some point, you gotta reshape things. You gotta find your own way and not following things to the letter. And that this is the only way I'm gonna live. It's you have control over everything, and everything is man-made. Everything is reshapeable. So why not find your own meaning? Find the way you want to live, and not what other people are telling you how to live. Because most of the times we think we want that life, but it's usually we're borrowing something from another human being, how they want to live, and we adapt that. And then at some point, we start to realize this is not how we want to live, and we regret all the years that we spent going in that direction. And we all fall into that at some point.
I feel like this is the average human being experience. We're always gonna go in the direction.
We're always influenced.
It's I've seen a reel from Jay Shetty yesterday where, on Instagram, and when he was like getting on a train, and then he said that, oh, I got on the train and realized
I saw it.
I realized later that I'm on the wrong train, and then
But there's still room.
it's never too late to
Exactly.
get off the train and then wait for because there's always a train that's gonna come, and you can always wait for the train to go back in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's always better to get off the wrong train late than never and keep going in the wrong direction. So it's not. That's where the idea comes from. It's like it's never too late to change your life, and it's never too late to reshape things, because we're all bound to go in the wrong directions. And
you can always bounce back. You can always.
We're all bound to get on the wrong trains. It is bound to happen to everyone, and I guess just sometimes remembering that, okay, well, I can always get off the train and try to go back and try to
awareness.
Have life more my way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe if you're not aware of that, you're gonna keep going in that direction until midlife crisis or something.
Even by then, you can always go back and reshape
but
it.
It doesn't have to be then. That's the point. It doesn't have to be then. So yeah, I guess that's it for this episode.
Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.
See ya.